Happy Friday, February 26th. Welcome to the 3 Things I Learned at SaaS Sports Tech and Live Events, our last time in Maui. For a while, we're gonna head back to the real world. Hey, fight episode. Last week, there was a viral clip going around of some Oklahoma football players getting their faces smashed in a pool of piss at a bar past midnight somewhere in Oklahoma. I've got plenty of thoughts on that. As many know who are my friends, I'm very into fighting and have been for a very long time, and I practice it for fun with myself, and my son practices it as well. It led me to think that it'd be a good episode to talk about what happens in business when the fight happens, because it does come to you when you're an entrepreneur and you're in sales. Number 1, don't pick fights. I know everybody wants to do it, especially when you get frustrated when your business is growing. And better yet, it's best to avoid them whenever possible. Often what happens in fights is the bigger companies like to pick fights with smaller companies. I'm here to tell you that you have no idea what kind of dog might be in that fight that you're picking. And in the end, even if you win, as a bigger company or a smaller one, you're gonna pay a big price in time. Even if you win all of the monies, even if you win all the judgments, it is not worth it. If you're gonna fight for customers, that's one thing. If you're gonna fight for market share, that's another thing. But picking fights, ridiculous nonsense about having pride or ego or lawsuits that don't go anywhere, it's not worth your time. So number 1, don't pick fights in life or in business. Number 2, a great piece of advice for young entrepreneurs and young CEOs. It is better to be a warrior in a garden than it is to be a gardener in a war. We all want to be kind. Well, maybe not all of us, but many of us want to be kind. We want to build our business around people that we trust and love. One of my friends, Ari Day, who is the CEO of Fivo, shared a terrific 3 things 2 weeks ago where he said the same thing. And I'll use him as an example. Ari is one of the kindest people I know. But don't get it twisted. If he needs to be, Ari's a killer. If you go after his flock, if you go after people he cares about, he's prepared and he's a killer. And you need to be too. Now, what does that mean? It means the same thing as being prepared in real life for when the fight comes to you. It means discipline and practice. It means stress testing your contracts and making sure that they will hold up. Stress testing your culture, making sure that it'll hold up. And stress testing your relationships with your partners to make sure they hold up in the down times. Don't get me wrong, we want to be kind. And being a kind servant leader is what we're all looking for. But that's not mutually exclusive with not being able to be a killer. You gotta look out for your flock. That's number 2. And number 3, this happens quite often. There are fights internally in your business, and there's going to be fights internally. You might find them silly, but the fallout from fights is significant and lasts for a very long time. It took us a while to understand that the best way to handle this was to create a impartial system for our internal fights, because people fight over commissions, customers, queue time, all of those things. What we suggest: build a third-party counsel that's not involved in the revenue side of the business and not involved with those people. Create it almost like a court system where they feel empowered, where your team feels empowered to make their case, and that their case will be heard without politics, without promotions, and without pomp and circumstance that gets sent out to the rest. We'll share a number of more things of how we've set up our sales team with all the mistakes we've made, but that's the 3 things this week on Fight Week. And if you want to learn more and see me get called a lot of names, you can always follow on Twitter. The reason I get called a lot of names is I'm not standing up for the Oklahoma football players. I don't think what they were doing was right. But I think the guy that was quote unquote defending himself, that guy was a very well trained grappler, and I think he poured it on an untrained fighter, and I don't think it was very necessary. I think he's a bully too. That's it for this week. Next week, a really great story of the time I sold a sponsorship to a strip club for an HBO heavyweight championship fight. We'll see you then.